Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to episode 310 of Freshly Grounded. I haven't done an intro for an episode in a very long time. This is a very special episode, guys. It's with brother Amir, Muhadith, who is most commonly known by his former stage name, Loon, who is a retired rapper, very well-known retired rapper, who was a member of Bad Boy Records, and he converted to Islam in 2008. And you might recognize him from an amazing video a few years ago when he was released from prison. And now he spends his time speaking to the youth about his experience, his life experience, and about how chasing the dunya is essentially not worth it, and essentially giving realization to the fact that, not worth it. I think a better way of saying it is the reality that we should have Deen at the forefront of our minds. And in this episode, we had both Brother Amir and also Brother Bilal Abu Ibrahim on, who is running the tour. So when you say tour, you got to give an explanation, Faisal. So tour, Brother Amir is on tour in the UK and Europe, starting from this week, inshallah, the week this episode is released. And if you want to go to any of the dates where he's telling his story, where he's connecting with the youth, you can check the description of this video. And also, if you're an organization that want to book Amir, you'd have to act fast, but you can get that information also in the description. So for the first half of this episode, we speak a bit about the tour and what Amir is going to be talking about on the tour. We spoke to Bilal Abu Ibrahim about the kind of logistics of the tour and what people can expect. And then in the second half, we played the Freshly Grounded game, which was amazing because he gave some very deep answers to some very deep questions. I think you guys will enjoy this episode, inshallah, episode 310 of Freshly Grounded. Let's get into it. Okay, and we're on. So alhamdulillah, we are joined by our brothers Amir and Bilal Abu Ibrahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
It's an honor to have you guys on the podcast. And first of all, obviously, Bilal, we've been speaking over the last few days. It's been very pleasant speaking to you and hearing about the amazing things you guys are doing in the UK. Amir, of course, I think there's not many Muslims in the West who are not familiar with your story and who have probably grown a brotherly love for you. As you do, there's nothing like the Deen of Allah, which, you have this love for people that is in many ways stronger than, it can be stronger than love for your family. It can be stronger than love for, for many other things, many other people, because of the Deen of Islam and how it ties people together. And so I think like a real monumental shift or where that love for me kind of was sparked was when actually you were released, and about almost around 2 years ago now, and we saw the video. And just that video, a Muslim can only be happy for his brother in Islam when he sees that kind of joy on his brother's face. I think this is one of the miracles of Islam. One of my favorite things is the brotherhood and the love for it. So I'm really intrigued, interested, excited to speak to you guys. And so we'll get into it. So I do want to know about the tour, inshallah, that you guys are doing in the UK, the Deen versus Dunya tour. But before we get into it, I was thinking about kind of my opening question, right? Like what I would ask you guys about in relation to the tour, in relation to yourself, Amir. And the first thing that kind of came to mind for myself was it was that I know on this tour and generally in your lectures, you focus a lot on advice for the youth. And so kind of before doing my research for the episode, my first question was going to be, why do you focus on the youth? And because as a man of experience in so many different worlds, you could focus on the music industry only, or people who have been incarcerated, reverts. And so when thinking about that question, I was also expecting a pretty standardized response of, the youth is our future kind of response, right? Which is kind of the typical kind of response you'd hear, which is true, but it kind of feels like a cop-out. And so, but then when I was doing my research, I heard you talk about this exact question and why you want to advise the youth, why you do advise the youth. And it was anything but a standard answer. It was one of your older videos from about a year ago. It's a very specific answer and one that took me back and that I loved, as soon as I heard it. And you said that you feel a responsibility to help the youth because right now the young people are just taking advice from each other. It's other inexperienced people taking advice from other inexperienced people. You didn't say this specific term, but it's like the blind following the blind, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I've changed my first question, and my question really is, how does your message on this tour then aim to change that? How do you aim to change people kind of looking for guidance with other inexperienced people, perhaps other than Islam as well? How do you aim to stop this culture of young inexperienced people teaching each other how to go through life? And why is that so important to you?
Now, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. To answer your question, first and foremost, I just want to thank you, for inviting me on the podcast. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, if you not thank the people, you haven't thanking Allah. So I want to implement that sunnah first and foremost. Secondly, I'm literally at Clark University in Atlanta, and I just got through talking to the kids here, and it's something that, I've definitely aspired to invest, my time in reaching back to the youth. Because the thing is, as someone from a previous generation, first and foremost, one of the things I have in my favor, and it's alhamdulillah, is that because of my past experience in the music business, the youth still view me as one of their peers. So this becomes the first advantage that I have, in regards of the opportunity to speak to the youth and be received. Because it's like almost like a civil dispute going on amongst elders and the youth. And there's a discord and a split in communication between the elders and the youth. So I'm always grateful that Allah allowed me, the opportunity prior to Islam to have such an extensive career in the music business and all of the things that are intriguing and inspiring to the youth, that I'm still viewed as one of their peers, alhamdulillah. So with that being said, to expound off the answer that I given before, because it's a very true statement, we all were young at some point, and we look to our peers for advice, knowing that we all on the same level, we all on the same wavelength. Maybe because he goes to school and I might not go to school, or maybe because he's passing certain grades and I'm not, I feel compelled to ask him for advice. But in all actuality, we're playing on the same level. So the ignorance that we possess is equal, outside of whatever other accomplishments may take place, individually. So for me, I believe that us as, the previous generation, we have definitely responsibility and an obligation, to help steer the youth away from some of the mistakes that we've made. I think a lot of us need to take accountability for neglecting, our posts in regards of, parenting goals, or, being advisors because we're older and so on and so forth. We kind of neglected these things. And this is why you see a lot of the shabab running around misguided, confused, and not really able to, grasp the severity of their current state. So for me, I believe that the selfishness that comes with my previous generation, and this is me taking accountability, because I think a lot of us, we made money, we made jewelry, we made chasing all of these worldly things a priority over, the generation to come. And in many cases, the consequences that we endured from that kind of really left us, really put us in a situation we abandon the youth because we end up incarcerated. We end up in prison for 10, 20, 30 years. So now the gap or the wedge that was between us prior to that incarceration has exceeded to be, beyond repair. So I like to think that because I still have this opportunity to reach out to the youth, pass on some knowledge or information or experiences that I may have had that can help them, elude some of the, the harsh realities that, plague the streets, not just in America, but around the world. And I found that there's a commonality amongst the youth because they all on the same tune as far as social media goes. They all listen to the same influences, the same music, the same athletes. They all have the same role model, so to say. So whatever they're influenced by, whatever they're experiencing is something that's widespread. It's not just, limited to my proximity, in the West. So this is why we put together this tour. Is to not only try to, be, proactive in the environments that I frequent in the United States, but I also wanted to take the opportunity to reach out to the UK and other parts of Europe and, other parts of the world and just show that, my generation, we are very aware of some of the things that the youth are facing. I believe it's my obligation and my duty to try to, protect them and shield them from some of the things that I may have experienced, and, if that can, help them to alleviate falling into the same traps.
You mentioned the tour, and it's kicking off in a matter of days. So I do want to bring in Brother Bilal shortly to give us some more context in that. Before I do, I know that Eddie from Deen Show asked you once how you feel about speaking about your past life and the frustrations that must come with having to kind of constantly recollect that. And you mentioned that you can see why experiencing that and telling those stories can be of benefit to people. So in that kind of sentiment, I wanted to ask you, the people who are currently living that life, the life that that you kind of label as kind of your previous life, for lack of a better term, or even just people who are chasing dunya, as we call it. I want to grab some context from you as to if those people are listening, and to myself, because I'm not above it. We're all sinners. Why is that a losing man's game?
Well, first and foremost, we already know as Muslims how insignificant this dunya is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that in itself establishes the worth, of these worldly affairs and all of the accolades that come with it and all of the things that we deem to be, success in the societies that we live in. But the reality of it is that, Allah has prescribed something so much better for all mankind. And as redundant and repetitive as it may sound, the more we hear it, it should be a testament of, the fact that, we have been given a roadmap. We have been given a blueprint to follow. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at, the music business and I look at everything that's happened to it since, I was involved into it, I believe that at this current state, because I haven't listened to music in 15 years, so I'm really oblivious to a lot of what's going on as far as, the creative side or whatever, songs are being circulated in the ears of the youth. I'm just looking at the actions that follow. I'm looking at the lifestyle. I'm looking at the pattern of things that's happening in a lot of the societies where the youth, frequent, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good. In the United States, you got Philadelphia, which is one of the most, predominantly Muslim cities in the United States. And they probably like number one, they're probably like, the murder capital right now in the United States. And that's horrible. To have a place where there's such a strong presence of Muslims, but our example is not leading the people to piety and righteousness. We're actually, falling victim to all of the corruption, and all of the crime that's taking place in that area. Same thing like in the UK. Brothers been calling me since I've been home, telling me about the influx of knife violence and things like that. It's like, it's a lot going on. And it makes you think, like, what is the source of it? You know what I'm saying? Because it's not Quran and Sunnah. It's not this blessed Deen of Islam. That means there's something else is influencing these kids to do things that are in complete opposition of Islam. You understand? So, is like I said, I'm just trying to, do my part. I don't believe that, just this effort is solely rest on my shoulders or anything like that. I believe that we all should be out here. Like you said, including yourself. You have a platform, you have an opportunity and a voice. You have a means to reach, the masses. And I think that there's a fine balance that, we can implement where, none of it is excessive. We just following that middle path. We're being Muslim, we fearing Allah to the best of our ability. And then there's some things in the dunya that's permissible for us to have, and it's not a problem. Having some remnants of the dunya. But to be excessively chasing the dunya and leaving off the religion of Islam, you understand, then you have to take account for the consequences that come with those kind of actions. And that's the only thing I want to remind the youth of. You know what I'm saying? Just a reminder, just advice. You know what I'm saying? To stay cognizant that Allah is all seeing, He's all knowing, He's aware of everything, you know? And if we're not cognizant of that and we lose, the ability to grasp that understanding, then we'll start falling into this abyss of, crime and violence and all of the things that plague our communities.
So speaking about, you kind of touched on it there, but speaking about role models is a big part of this kind of message that that you're putting out, and I'm intrigued to understand that a bit more. Why we already have the role models that in Islam that we need, but also kind of how do we advise ourselves and young people to kind of see good contemporary role models, or are there examples of good contemporary role models, or should we just look at, for example, or do we have enough, and so on and so forth? But before we go into kind of the discussion of role models, let's bring in Bilal, because we kind of mentioned the tour a few times now, and it's something that's super interesting because our key audience is in the UK, London mainly, and I know you guys are heading over to London, and we've got an audience in kind of spread out across the UK. And so Bilal, what is it that, well, first of all, what's the topic of the tour? What's the aims of the tour, and what can people expect? What are the dates, and where can people kind of come and see Brother Amir talk about these issues?
بارك الله فيك أخي فيصل. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So the topic of the tour, as you mentioned, is Dunya versus Akhirah, and as well we have then an open for booking dates from the 20th of February to the 27th in the UK, and as well in Europe from the 28th of February to the 7th of March, where we're going to be touring on the topic of, in absence of role models, where do we want to end up? And Loon is one of those brothers who have the credibility, the credential to talk on this subject. Most of our youth lack in right role models, and there is a lifestyle that is glorified. And for that reason, ourselves at the Center of Coaching Civilization, which is centercc.org, we saw befitting to invite Loon and to cooperate with him on this mission on bringing to light to the youth the real reality of that lifestyle that is highly glorified, while people do not really know its reality and where it leads us to. So we are living at the moment a very big crisis in the UK as well internationally, but there is a lot of gang-related crimes which is increasing and is a problem for the authorities as well as for the Muslim community. So upon us as a community, we need to bring solutions because the youth can relate to us the most. We're both Muslims, and the Muslim youth are increasingly engaging in that kind of lifestyle, which Loon can explain and tell them the insight and its reality better Bilal, than anyone else. Now,
you mentioned there was a space of a period of time that that Amir is going to be doing these talks. If an organization would like to host these talks, is there a way they can get in touch?
Yes, of course. So So they can go through our website, which is exhibitionculture@gmail.com, or through the page itself. Um, on Loon's page also has the link, and hopefully you can also share the link where the communities, youth centers, and youth workers can reach out, even the authorities, to be honest. We open for the entire community in the UK and Europe as well. So
Okay.
hopefully we can share the link below.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. We'll put those links in the description of this video, inshallah. And I'm actually going to be in the UK, I think, at the same time. So it'd be nice for me to hopefully pop down to one of these events. It just happened to coincide, so we might even end up being able to do something in person together in the UK. So, speaking of these tours,
Inshallah.
it would be amazing. Speaking of these tours, Amir, we should say the reason you're in your car, it's not a green screen. The reason you're in your car right now is because you just finished a university talk. You're in Atlanta right now, am I right?
Yeah. Yep. I'm in Atlanta.
And so you've
Yep.
just...
I'm at Clark University right now.
Fine. And what is it that you speak to these students about when you're in a lecture like the one that you just left?
Well, the beauty about this situation is, this is a non-Muslim establishment, and they've invited me one time, and I think because of the impact of that, speaking engagement, they've invited me back to teach two more classes today. So I'm doing cultural studies. I just did a cultural studies class, and now I'm doing sociology. So the thing with this is, like, and me and Bilal talk about this a lot, about the commonality that all of the youth share. And I mentioned that earlier in the interview, that they have a commonality, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim. There's a certain commonality, and I believe that a lot of the parents in general are losing their babies. Everyone is losing touch of their children because all of the influences outside of the home are so intense, that it's very, very hard, to be, that dominant influence, as a father, as a mother, or whatever the case may be, because once they step outside that door, it's like another set of parents just waiting for them, So what I've learned is speaking to these youth, and I've learned there's some consistency in them not being 100% clear on what it is that they want to do with their lives, They give me a bunch of scenarios of things that they want to achieve. But then when you question, the validity of the path or, the roadmap that they're following in order to achieve those things, it gets real kind of quiet.
Do you think we've also got our priorities wrong with what we want to achieve? Because it seems almost like there's sometimes a lopsided, like an 80-20 rule of the majority of our goals being dunya related and a very small minority of them being akhirah related. And I've heard you speak a few times about death, the reality of death. And I think it's always something that is a reality check when you think about it. Because once you die, you're not thinking about any of your dunya accomplishments. All you're thinking about is your akhirah like accomplishments or things you've done for it. And I heard you put it in context of, you think about some of the most famous people in the world and how long really is the grieving period. So, how do you feel about that kind of the balance we seem to have of our goals and where we're setting those goals?
Well, I would call it more of an imbalance. The balance is, following the Quran and Sunnah, with the understanding of the companions. That is, the roadmap that we follow, and the goal ultimately for the believers is Jannah, right? So now when you measure that with the worldly affairs, the balance should be established based on understanding the both, understanding the virtues and benefits that come with the Deen, and understanding, the detriment and the hardship that comes with, the affairs of the dunya, So once you weigh that out, it becomes a little bit more clear now that the akhirah is way more important than the dunya, And this is why the name of the talk is Deen versus Dunya, not the Dunya versus the Deen. This is the Deen versus the Dunya, because the Deen at this current state, in time of the Muslims in general, and specifically the Shabab, is what's under attack. It's not the affairs of the dunya that's under attack. It's the deen that's under attack. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's self-inflicted or the things that's, outside our homes. And there's an abundance of influences that's in complete opposition of Islam. So, I think it's imperative as a reminder to myself, first and foremost, and to all of the Muslims, that we have to constantly, regardless of how repetitive this message has been through, many of the du'at, many of the callers to Islam, many of the students, the scholars of the, Ahlul Sunnah, everyone's putting forth the effort of showing the contrast between the Deen and the Dunya. But I think the reality of it is, like I said, I've been fortunate to be viewed as a peer to the youth. So they're receptive to people like myself, people like you, like I said, who have a platform. As many Muslims out here, regardless of whatever weaknesses or deficiencies they may have in their religion, it's important for us to understand if we have such an impactful influence on the youth, then that means we have a responsibility and an obligation to use those platforms to advise the youth that the religion of Islam, and this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam takes precedence over the dunya. Now, Akhi, I just want to say this, right? Because I don't want to give up way too much, and it takes away the integrity of the talk. But the reality of it is, when you said about Eddie and why I choose not to glorify a lot of my past, is because these are things that Allah, by his mercy, have allowed me to put in my rear view. You understand? And then the fruits that comes with having those things behind me is what I'm trying to share. I'm trying to share the beauty of that. I'm trying to share that zeal that Allah has placed in my heart, to love in a way that I've never loved before. To have concern for another person like I've never had before. And that's what drives me. That's what motivates me. It's not just the youth, it's just in general. Yeah.
I think on that, the thing that I find the most tough is that if I'm being real, I think that the challenge I have often is, or the dichotomy that I feel takes place is that well, first of all, it's very hard to get through to even one human being, right? Like a human being is a very complicated being that has each individual has their own individual experiences, relationships with people, relationships with people they've deemed religious and stuff like that. And so the tough thing I find is well, the quote that I think took me back when I read it was something like, everybody knows that money is not the root of happiness, but everybody wants to find out for themselves. And I think that that's what I resonate with when I see, for example, things like this amazing tour and the message that you're putting out. How do you get over that bit? Because I think everybody could look at your story and say, well, this is amazing, and I can see how Bilal, your microphone, let me see if I can mute it on my end. I think I muted it. Okay, so with that quote in mind, how do we get over that hurdle and say, yes, things are brighter on the other side, but here's the actual route to feel that this is proof. You don't have to experience the other side in order to know that the beauty is on Islam's side, in order to know that Islam is a haqq. And as a kind of a secondary question to that, I think even if we put, for example, gang culture, violence, knife crime and things like this to the side, I think there's also another category of people who perhaps sometimes are overlooked when we're trying to give the message of Islam. And that's a category of people who aren't necessarily in gang crime or knife crime and so on and so forth. But they may be reverts, they may have been born Muslim, but they equally aren't on the side where they see the passion for Islam. How do we show those individuals that the beauty really, and the only true happiness is when you live every day of your life trying your best to please your creator. When true happiness is, no matter what your situation, your head is on the ground 5 times a day, and that's where you're closest. Or when you have a problem, you raise your hands and you speak directly to your creator. How do we get everybody to see that is the true meaning of success? And that's really where the answer to our happiness and our soul's happiness lies. I know it's quite a heavy question.
No, it's cool, because I don't think that nobody that accepted Islam, you know what I'm saying, especially from the revert, I don't think that nobody accepted Islam and don't understand, you know what I'm saying, the virtue of Islam. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to put that part to bed. Like, no one accepted Islam, even if a person is born Muslim. That means you've been nurtured and cultivated upon Tawheed. You've been nurtured and cultivated upon Islam. You don't really know nothing else. And what I've found, and this is not something to just run with or whatever, but what I found through my own experiences is that the Muslims that are born Muslim, that are nurtured and cultivated upon Islam and have been sheltered in the bosom of, you know what I'm saying, Muslim parents and, you know, Muslim relatives and everything that comes with the Islamic culture, tend to be more curious, you know what I'm saying, more curious about the affairs of the dunya. And then you have a lot of the reverts, you know what I'm saying, that come to the religion by way of hardship, difficulty, adversity, you know what I'm saying, gang violence, drug addiction, whatever the case may be. And they find Islam as the haq. They tend to be, you know, more curious about, you know, the path that leads to that paradise. But I guess to get to your question is, I believe that it's easy to just say that, right? What you asked. It's easy to just tell a kid, you know, alhamdulillah, you know, you follow Islam, you know, Allah has prepared, you know, this Jannah where you're going to be in a, you know, an eternal state of bliss, and you're going to, you know, see things that no eyes has ever seen, taste things no tongue has ever tasted, all of the things that we know to be true. You know what I'm saying? And then we can also sensationalize, you know what I'm saying, the detriment that comes with, you know, the dunya and chasing dunya, right? But it's like, you could tell a person this, but you have to establish some means to get closer to what's more beneficial. And I think a lot of it starts with companionship. You know what I'm saying? What's kept me, you know what I'm saying, grounded in Islam is the brotherhood. Allah has favored me with being around some brothers who constantly remind me of Allah. Constantly remind me of Allah. So the affairs of the dunya become mundane to me. They become very minuscule to me because of my companionship. I'm around brothers that remind me of Allah. I'm around brothers that love Allah and His Messenger. You know what I'm saying? We had big fun. I'm with brothers, we always laugh. We joke, we do all of the things, you know, that comes with, you know, just living life. But the majority of our interaction is consistent around the reminder that we are all striving for the akhirah. Now, with some of the shabab who are influenced by, you know, people who have achieved certain things in the dunya. Take, for example, a lot of these rappers and stuff, right? They see the rappers with the $300,000 cars. They see all of the accolades that come with their accomplishments and so on and so forth. And they become intrigued by this. And what happened is they start abandoning good companionship. They start abandoning sincere brotherhood and start aligning themselves with people that they think will get them closer to these things that they're inspired by. And the consequences of that form of company only leads to a lot of the things that we see every day. Like you just mentioned, knife violence, drug addiction, you know what I'm saying, illegal sexual acts, you know, intoxication, so on and so forth, right? So I think that us who are in positions of influence, once again, it's our duty to actually, you know, show more practical, you know what I'm saying, examples of what that entails and not just telling people anymore. I believe the kids want to see it. They want to see it. You know what I'm saying? They're tired of being told. They want to see it. Because you have people who have weaknesses and deficiencies of their own trying to tell you to be better than them, right?
Right.
And that sometimes
And
resonates with the shabab is, something like it comes across kind of hypocritical. It's like, you smoke, you telling me not to smoke. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? You barely pray, but you telling me to pray. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, there's so many different mixed signals. But I believe that, like I said, I'm only trying to put forth an effort based on what Allah favored me with, having the opportunity to still be viewed as a peer, having a voice based on things that I experienced that's in connection to a lot of the things that influence the kids today. And I'm just trying to take the initiative to just show, like, listen, I'm a walking example, and I pray that Allah make me better than the way you see me. But I definitely try to have that balance between, you know, the religion and what's permissible for me to have in the dunya.
Yeah, look, I think that there's a huge importance that needs to be put on people who have different experiences, or and who can, like you said, can relate to the youth and relate to different lifestyles to have those conversations with those people. And taking it back to my original question at the beginning of the podcast, which was about, people going to the wrong people for advice and stuff like that. It reminds me of when I first heard you say that. It reminded me instantly of when I had first heard about Imam Shafi, and that
Mm.
there would be times where he would be asked a question and he would physically run away. And I thought, how beautiful of a scenario, because now with the internet, with social media, but also just with how confident I suppose we are in things, we would love to be asked a question, and we love giving advice, me included. And
Yeah.
and look at that, one of the greatest scholars of Islam, who probably had the answer that he was being asked, scared of, for whatever reason, tried his best not to answer certain questions.
Yeah.
What kind of a purer society we would live in, right?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. I know a lot of brothers, alhamdulillah, may Allah preserve all of the Muslims and make us all better. There's a lot of brothers that I've seen since I've been Muslim who may have spent maybe 5, 10, even longer years studying, sitting at the feet of the ulama, learning, beneficial knowledge from the scholars, learning how to implement good characteristics and manners from watching, the examples of the ulama. So when they acquire this pureness in their heart and these pure examples, they tend to try to run from, the things that come with fame, dependency, because the awam, the general people, sometimes if you get a good answer, an answer that benefits you from someone of knowledge, then it's like they become like a doctor. It's like it's always on speed down now. Like, yeah, sheikh, Indy Suel, I have a question. Like, and then after a while, people of piety would love to just tell you, Akhi, seek refuge in Allah. Like, you can't keep calling me. I'm not Allah Azza wa Jal. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the answer to all your problems. You know what I'm saying? And I think some of the shyness comes from the long-term effect of being, the people depending on you, or the people coming to you with all of their affairs and not seeking refuge in Allah. You understand? And I can see that, because I actually struggle with that. I don't like to feel like I'm the go-to person. Wallahi, I don't, Akhi. You know what I'm saying? But I think that when it comes down to
I think you have
this
experienced a very
particular
specific
stick,
field, yeah, and I think, like, the beauty of the fact that, or the beauty of your journey, is that you're in a very unique position, and like you said,
yeah,
Allah has put you in this position, and people will listen to that, and so, yeah, by no means was I even insinuating that you are of those people that I was speaking about. I don't think you should feel that either.
yeah, no, I understood what you were saying. I just say that, just the example you use, I've experienced people that possess that piety. And that's another thing that keeps me, intrigued about this Deen, that there are people like that walking the earth. You know what I'm saying? There were people like that during the time of Imam Shafi, rahimahullah, but you got people walking the earth like that now.
Yep,
You know what I'm
yep,
saying? And a lot of us as Muslims, we're oblivious to these people because we don't turn to the people of knowledge. We turn
yep.
to people, like I said, that we view as peers, or people that we can see similarities in, or people that are very eloquent in their speech. They're always, doing talks on ariqaq and, heart softeners and stuff like that. We turn to them. We turn to people who give you fatwa that cater to your weaknesses and your desires. You don't want to hear, the stronger opinion or the more firmer opinion that's against you. You try to seek, advice or, information from people who want to, just put a Band-Aid on everything. So it's like, to have the opportunity to witness, once again, real genuine brotherhood, amongst the Muslims, is priceless, Yahi. It's priceless. What hurts me the most with some of these youth today is Muslims out here killing Muslims. I don't think there's no more horrific crime that's being committed in the streets of America, UK, or wherever these issues may be widespread than young Muslims imitating the kuffar in regards of trying to have gangs and all of these things, where someone in the opposition gang may be a Muslim and you're a Muslim. So now what? Y'all pledging allegiance to other than Allah? You're pledging the allegiance to other than Allah and His Messenger? And you have the audacity to want to go kill another Muslim because he pledged allegiance to also other than Allah? You understand what I'm saying? It's like, this stuff is like, it's heartbreaking, Yahi.
Yeah.
And I'm out here and I'm talking to these kids and I'm realizing that, you're able to really gauge and understand what their issues is when you listen to them. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people are just not listening to them. We keep trying to tell them or give them answers and solutions without listening to what is troubling them the most. And then we can extract benefit from the religion, that's applicable to those issues. You know what I'm saying? It's like how you give someone Pepto-Bismol when they got a headache. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
So this is where, benefit can become harmful because it's not being applied properly. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times a lot of elders in some of these communities, they actually have too many conversations about the youth without the youth being present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How are you having conversations about the youth without the youth being present? How do you gauge and assess whatever issues that they facing without them telling it to you, without them interpreting what's bothering them the most? And it's like this breakdown in communication that, is why we're so, disconnected in understanding what's making the youth act in this fashion, what's making the Muslims flee from Islam, where is the source of all these problems,
Yeah, I think that you expanded out that communication seems to be the issue with many things, and it's often spoken about in marriage, in raising children, in the community. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm intrigued and interested to come to one of the talks. I'm conscious of taking all of the benefit and leaving nothing for the actual tour. So I will move on, inshallah, to a completely different topic. For the last, so if those of you who are in the UK and want to hear more and also be impacted by Brother Amir's story, but I think like going with the attention of making serious changes in your life, I would very much recommend it. I'm going to do my best to be at one of these events. I will say for the last 15 minutes I have with you, I'm going to switch up completely, and I'm going to ask. I'm going to go kind of quick fire with you. I'm going to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer them quickly. It's up to you. But I'm going to just grab our conversation cards. I'm going to walk you through it, and then I'm going to throw a few questions at you, and then we'll wrap up in about 10 to 15 minutes. I think we've got. Okay.
Inshallah.
Let me just go and grab them now. Okay, so on the topic of conversations, we created this. We created this thing at Freshly Grounded. Freshly Grounded, obviously, the name of our podcast. It's called The Game. I'm not trying to promo it. I mean, of course, like naturally, I am. I'm opening a new one for you, Amir, as well. In fact, I'm gonna bring this with me to London, and if we do meet, inshallah, then inshallah you'll have You'll have a brand new game for yourself. I think you'll like it. So it's a box of 100 conversation cards, and the idea of the conversation cards are to help you connect with a loved one, a friend, a brother, a spouse, your children, but also to connect with Allah in the sense that you reflect on some of these questions. So there's some light-hearted questions, and then there's some like super kind of like reflecty questions. I want to hit you with some of the deeper questions. It can be quick fire. You can answer however you want. So the first question, it says, but it could get deep. It could get deep. Okay. First question is quite a deep one.
Okay.
The question, it reads, tell me something about your mother that you didn't appreciate until you became older.
I didn't appreciate until I got older. That's a tough one for me, man, because just a little story about my mom, not to be winded, you know, my mom suffered from like drug addiction when I was young. And the person that she's became today, I truly appreciate, you know. So I think what I didn't appreciate was her struggle. Let's say that. I didn't appreciate her struggle until I got older and I understood it a lot better, you know.
That's an amazing
That makes
answer.
sense.
That's an amazing answer. Makes a lot of sense. SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
We often don't understand our parents' struggles until we start getting older, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
I purposely picked the deep ones for you, so I'm sorry. The next question says, when was the last time you cried?
Wow. Man, last time I cried. It's funny, my grandmother, Rahimahullah, she took a shahada before she passed. She was 91 years old. When I came home, she was fighting cancer. And I was just so grateful to have her for all the years I had her in my life. I had kind of a delay in my grievance. You know, so the last time I cried, I was scrolling through my phone and I had a video of her, you know, and she was dancing to my old song.
Wow.
And I broke down.
SubhanAllah.
I broke down.
This card, it says, finish the sentence. Dear Allah.
Say that again?
It says, finish the sentence. Dear Allah.
Dear Allah, I ask you to guide this ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That gave me goosebumps. Most people say, like, you know, something personal to them. The fact that the first thing you thought about was the ummah is, that's giving me goosebumps, subhanAllah. What do you know about yourself now that you didn't know when you were younger? What do you know about yourself now that you didn't know when you were younger?
What I didn't know about myself, or what I know about myself now that I didn't know when I was younger. That's the question, right? I didn't know that I had the ability to lead people until I got older.
I like that a lot. One of Allah's names is it translates to your protecting friend. Name a time in your life where you felt that name in existence.
Sure. When I was in prison. Yeah.
Let's go with... If you could give me a piece of advice on anything, what would it be?
Fear Allah to the best of your ability.
Tell me an Islamic reminder you once heard that stayed with you to this day.
Wow. There's so many. There's so many. I would say stuck with me the most is to want for your brother what you want for yourself.
Okay, we're gonna power through these. I'm loving your answers, subhanAllah. This has been my favorite. This is hands down been my favorite time playing this game. I'm gonna be honest, like on the podcast, because I feel like every answer is like I feel the answer like it's a real answer. You're not just is you can see it's what you feel. Okay, in the past year, what was the moment in which you felt closest to Allah?
Past year, meaning 2022.
In the past 12 months, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. This past year, I felt the most closest to Allah. To be honest with you, Akhi, you know, I always feel close to Allah,
Alhamdulillah.
you know, because, yeah, my answer is I always feel close to Allah.
That's a good one. Okay, what does patience mean to you?
Patience is a trial.
Sah. I felt that one, man. I'm with you on that. What? Which emotions do you tend to disguise?
Pain.
Think about someone in your life that's no longer here. What's one lesson they taught you?
Taught me to be true to myself.
What's your favorite struggle?
My favorite struggle? I mean, it's subhanAllah. My favorite struggle was being incarcerated for 9 years.
SubhanAllah.
It's my favorite struggle.
Can
I
you
don't think
expand on
there's
that?
anything else. Yeah, because what it did for me, it gave me an opportunity to be able to reflect on a lot of things that were just speeding past me in life. You know, I've always been, you know, living a very spontaneous life since I was a kid. And it's like Allah gave me an opportunity to just pull over and park, you know. And I started to see more, learn more. I increased in a lot of things. I became more cognizant of a lot of things. I increased in my, you know, my ibadah, my worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was able to increase, and it was just my best struggle. Even though on the outside looking in, a lot of people saw it as a low point for me. But it was a struggle that, you know, that included evolution.
Allahu Akbar. What's weighing heavy on your heart right now?
The state of Ummah.
When was the last time you spoke from your heart to Allah? What motivated it?
I mean, I don't like to expose my good deeds, but
We can skip it if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you struggling to let go of that no longer serves you?
Struggling to let go that no longer serves me. Hope for hopeless people.
SubhanAllah. What was the point in your life when you started believing in yourself?
I don't know. I always believed in myself. Yeah, I always believed in myself.
I can believe that. When I think of meeting Allah, I feel blank.
Afraid.
Name one thing you love about the way you've been raised.
although I didn't have both my parents, I had both my grandparents.
Amazing.
So I had structure. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, last question, because I chose all the deep ones. We'll go with the light one. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Favorite cheat meal?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm tranquilized off these vegan chocolate chip cookies.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
Alhamdulillah.
I think I indulge too much just because it says vegan.
Yeah, that's a trick. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll do
so
it.
yeah,
It says vegan, but it doesn't say will
yeah,
make you will make
yeah,
you
exactly.
an
There's still some
athlete.
sugar involved. Yeah, there's still
Yeah,
definitely some
exactly.
sugar involved. You know.
Amir, I know you have another class. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair for your time. We're going to catch up with Bilal just some more about some context of the tour, but you're welcome to head off to that class. I really honestly appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man, and again, like I said, we've never met, but the beauty of Islam is that I love you for the sake of Allah. You're my brother in the Deen, and I hope that we meet next week. If not, then perhaps somewhere in the UAE, which I know is has kind of a close kind of closeness in your heart as well. So, Jazakallah
Absolutely,
khair, may Allah bless you.
absolutely. Inshallah, man. I love you for the sake of the one you love me for, Aki. And inshallah, if I ever get the opportunity to meet you personally, I would definitely love to sit down, eat with you,
Definitely.
and expound on this brotherhood, inshallah.
Inshallah. May Allah bless you. Jazakallah khair for your time, and inshallah we'll catch up soon.
I mean, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Assalamu
barakatuh.
alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, so brothers and sisters, that was Brother Amir. Amazing brother. It was lovely to speak to him. We still have Brother Bilal, and Jazakallah khair, Bilal, for joining us on this discussion today. Let's talk a bit more about this tour. We just spoke to Amir, aka Loon. One of the things that playing the game with him opened up to me was how much how seriously he takes life. No pun intended, but life is not a game for him, and you can see that. You can see where his priorities lie. The fact that the first question, the first answer that instantly came to his head when I said, "Dear Allah," and he thought about the ummah. We get people who answer that question in many different ways. Dear Allah, people say thank you. Dear Allah, people say forgive me. And the fact that his first thought was the ummah, that gave me goosebumps. Just give us some more information about what people can expect on this tour that's taking place. And if you could just go over the dates again, that would be very helpful as well.
So, Jazakallah khairan, Brother Faisal. Again, the dates will be from the 20th of February to the 27th in the UK. And as for Europe, it will be from the 28th until the 7th of March. Alhamdulillah. As for what to expect, we're trying to tackle this from two ways. One is by highlighting the importance of us, the Muslim, to get directly involved into solving the problem our community is facing in this environment. And the Muslim youth are facing a reality never seen before. Our elders, they never experienced this kind of crisis we're going through for two reasons. First, we might be considered the first or second generation in the West, a non-Muslim majority society. And number two, our parents are equally not fully aware of this society in terms of, this is something unique in the history of Islam. And they're not equipped to overcome these kind of challenges, which is materialism, and many other challenges that we all aware of, and we hear it on a regular basis and on the news and on the social media. For example, the social media itself promotes certain values that a child doesn't need to come out of the comfort of his home to see and be exposed to things maybe while I grew up as a non-Muslim, by the way, being a revert, we've been exposed to certain things that was based upon location. But now all of the things are, everywhere where our kids can be exposed to it, even in a small village in Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or in Africa, you know. So from an Arab kid, I remember from time to time in Medina while I stayed there, I would drive, I would look to my right or left, then an Arab kid would be listening to rap music, which I grew up listening to, or a particular lifestyle that, I can even consider that I was raised upon. So I'm finding them looking up or glorifying that particular lifestyle, which is unknown to their forefathers. So us as a community, we live in a unique time where as well, the Western society is mobile, where we have the rise of particular community from the bottom to the top. And from it is the black culture, which is the popular culture, or I wouldn't call the pop culture instead. The pop culture is the suburbs of New York and LA that became the mainstream culture, which Loon is the most, Loon, our brother Amir, as I refer to him as for his former stage name, is the person with the most credibility when it comes to that lifestyle. Because we all somehow, depending on your age and generation, and we even see the way the rappers, they talk about him, And not too long ago, I saw a short clip where Noruega and Joel Santana were talking highly about him, asking each other, have you seen Loon? Because Loon is also from Holland, like Joel Santana, and talking about his beard, that he's praying Jum'ah, and he's using Islamic terminologies, which is shocking, to hear someone from that background. I still remember who he is, because I used to be quite involved into that lifestyle, and that is basically my background as well, but not at his level. From Portugal is, of course, it's different, but that lifestyle of culture is part of what made me become who I became, even led me to Islam eventually. And it's funny to mention that, subhanAllah, one of the exposure of from me as a non-Muslim towards Islam actually was Joel Santana. He had a clip where they were wearing imama.
Okay.
Of course, it wasn't from the traditional Arab customs, but they were wearing it from Louis Vuitton and Gucci.
Okay.
So that was also a connection somehow to Islam from that urban culture leading to the Islamic faith. Because we have to remember, Malcolm X was in Harlem.
Right, okay.
So that particular community was exposed to Islam.
Yep.
And so on. But going back to the point on why we see the need of bringing brothers like Loon, and which is now known as Amir, alhamdulillah, is that they are a bridge, not the end. Okay, so through brothers like himself who have the credibility, we bring a particular crowd to the masajids, or at least to be exposed to practicing Muslims. Practicing Muslims who are not there to judge no one, but we're there simply to assist people, making ourselves available to the youngsters who might not have exposed Islamic type of Muslim, not a cultural Muslim.
Right. Yeah, or may even be anxious of making those connections because of perhaps what they feel maybe they would feel that they would be judged or wouldn't be understood, perhaps. Just going back to the event, just to round up,
No,
I'm conscious of your
course,
time.
yes.
What is it what's different about the structure of this tour?
So what we're trying to establish, for example, discussing the importance of having the right role models, is to reconnect the youth to the classical and the source of this religion being the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to reconnect the youth to them, and for us to take them as role models. Because one of the challenges we're facing at the moment, due to the glorification of the, social media, a particular lifestyle, and pop culture, is lack of role models. So by bringing brothers like Amir, we basically are taking him to the communities in the UK and the rest of Europe to see a first-hand experience that the lifestyle that they aspire to or they are chasing is not worth.
Right.
So we do know examples of individuals who are, alhamdulillah, upright Muslims and done a similar tour and things of this nature, alhamdulillah. But the way we're trying to contribute as well is to establish lessons as well in those communities, connect people who are students of knowledge, even amongst themselves, promote the pursuit of knowledge as well, not simply to go and listen to a reminder, but to take knowledge as a lifestyle. Now, and it doesn't mean you have to become a student in Medina University or Riyadh or Egypt. No, it's just to read a portion of the Quran and try to understand its interpretation.
So.
You understand? To promote a reading culture and, a lifestyle that makes you improve, become a better version of yourself from that which you were the day before, and try to help each other in that by identifying the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, who has the most to do with your personality. There are some of us who have, a level of bravery, and we try to stand up for the haqq and call to the haqq. There are some of us who are soft and well-mannered. There is all of us. We have someone we could look up to amongst the companions of the
I've never
Prophet
considered that. Yeah, subhanAllah. One of the amazing things about the fact that we know so much about the different personalities of the companions and radiyallahu anhum, and how that different characteristics, different personalities, you can still be good, strong Muslims that can attain Jannah. Brother Bilal Abu Ibrahim, Jazakallah khairan for your time, and inshallah we will meet. I hope that we can meet inshallah in London, and may Allah bless you. I will put all of the links inshallah that you'd like me to put in the description of this video,
and as well. So just to add as well, Brother Faisal, sorry for interrupting you. Tools like these has costs. It's not something that is easy to stop someone like Amir in the middle of his busy schedule, life, and this is not meant to be the last either, And I look forward to work with you on this mission to spread and encourage the Muslim youth to choose the right role models into our lives. So as we all know, these has costs, and whoever is interested to promote and support these kind of initiatives, they're more than welcome. Hopefully, Brother Faisal, you don't mind to have the link below for people to support these efforts, which is not easy at all to organize.
I know.
And the costs are immense. And we just regular individuals in the community who are trying to make a difference and taking initiative so that our elders and those with the proper means can look at these and see how efficient it was, and then collectively do it together. Hopefully, inshallah.
We ask Allah put barakah in it and make it easy for you. Jazakallah khair, Brother Bilal, and inshallah we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.